To all of you, especially to the members on the dais. I stand no opportunity to be compared with the doyen sitting and the kind of deliberation that has gone from morning. And I can see a lot of you tiring out very badly. So I'll keep my monologue short. And the lawmakers have already explained what Section 135 is. So I will not deliberate and I won't even go near it because it was done in a very comprehensive manner. Workforce was discussed, healthier workforce was discussed, collaborations was discussed, partnership was discussed, transnational, international partnerships were discussed. I would relate to something very, very simple and go to the heart. So I'll take you where the soul is. We are a consulting organization on impact, measurement, audits. And this year we have a new paradigm called the CSR audit. So we have been in consultation going ahead a lot with the IICA, through Dr. Chatterjee and all. Various other corporations actually take our services to do their CSR audit and measurement mechanism, and I think by 2015 we'll have a greater demand of that coming up. I couldn't agree more with Ms. Subramaniam that a lot of corporations actually do not have a very clear idea of what to do, forget about the measurement of it. But I think the corporations are quite adaptable and let's not undermine their capacities. They have gone to that level where they have come in that framework of net profit. So given to that, they will develop this whole model of measurement by themselves and work on it. My question is very, very simple. I'll be only talking on two things that we really think we have a little knowledge about. One is the intent. I think a lot of us in this room are from the NGO fraternity. I would still call the NGO fraternity. And I think the moment a corporation opens a foundation, they themselves become a part of the NGO fraternity. Now, ideally, we have discussed the lack of trust that exists in every possible project that you see around. When we go to measure the impact on the ground, we see a lot of fragile trust that exists between corporations and the civil society organizations. It starts with the intent of the corporations. Now, just to give you a small figure, 83% of the companies, as per the IICA standards, the 1,000 companies which have been doing CSR, 83% of those companies have been doing CSR beyond 5%. So they are automatically into that 2% bandwidth. It's the question of the new entrants which is going to raise the bar. Because we also have a lot of faculty positions, and both at an individual capacity and at an institutional level, we go for some advisories in the US and other countries. One thing I should give accolades to IICA and the government is that people in the other parts of the world have started discussing that there is a possibility of a mandate like this. It has been tried in various countries like Brazil and all, but it never was brought forward in this comprehensive manner and the nature of the law. So they have started discussing. In fact, they have started deliberating whether this can be a probability in their countries as well. What we find very peculiar is that one thing negative that the law has done, I think it is a byproduct of that law coming in, is responsibility and corporate social responsibility has now been defined by an X% of your profit. Whereas if you look at the whole process, we are looking at the product as 2%. For example, 2% as per the law. It may be 5% or 16%, whatever it is. Corporate social responsibility is not about an X% of profit. That the government has done exceedingly well. They have defined it because it was required. But I think corporate social responsibility is not a percentage of the profit. It is how you make those profits. So let me give you a small example. A US company called Nike had this great campaign against them when a sting operation was carried out in Bangladesh regarding the factories, and they were employing child labor. And at the same time, Nike was actually providing about 10% of their annual profit to eradicate child poverty, get them education in various countries. It's a dichotomy that in the developed world, this concept of social responsibility as it is understood in the US, corporate citizenship or the corporate responsibility, it is much more advanced. In this part of the country, we are just at a very nascent stage, although the history is very individual and family-oriented philanthropy in this country. on a constitutional basis, on a framework basis, it is for the first time that we are having it. So you and I are sitting, and this conference, very well organized by NGOBox, is happening today because that law came into force. Otherwise, I hardly could see in 2009, 2008 when the company started, there were no conferences which used to happen on CSR. There used to be conferences on program management and all these things. We are talking because, thanks to the government, that they have come out with the law. So at least on that level, they are doing exceedingly good. So what happens is, we concentrate too much on the percentage of the profit and what do we do with that profit. We tend to deviate from how those profits have been done. So CSR is not 2% of your total net profit. It is your 100% profit, but how it is made. The policies that you follow within an institution. CSR does not exclude your workforce. CSR does not exclude your delivery platforms, your supply chain management. How is the end supplier? You may have a 100 supplier tire sitting in the US or in the EU. You may have a supplier in Sri Lanka. But are you adhering to the highest policy level standards in those factories which are at tire 100 or a tire 90 on your supply chain management? If you do not do it there, it is difficult. It is humongously difficult, I agree. But if you do not do it there, how many percentages of annual net profit income you deliver on the ground, I don't think you will be known as a very responsible business in totality. So CSR is a matter of behavior. It's more of a process than of a percentage. I'm not against the percentage. Obviously, there is a calculation and we'll have to go about it. I should not mind it because a lot of us have got more business because of it. That's for sure. But taking away, when corporations come to us and they tell us, can you advise what do we do with this money? We actually go one step ahead and we say, can you tell us how you are getting this money? And I think as per the government notification, the CSR 2% has been kept away from the compliance nature. So for example, if you are into a chemical plant and your discharge policies are not in place, the water discharge policies are not in place, then you cannot apply the water discharge investment as CSR. It has to be compliance swept away. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm only talking to the corporations. I'll come to the NGOs later. There are a lot of corporate representatives here. I would say corporation representatives. They tend to have a feeling in India that it is only about giving at the end of the profit. It is about attaining those profits. We in India are an emerging economy. We have constraints. We have a lot of constraints on resources, on the human front, as was explained by Mr. Bhatnagar, on the health front by Dr. Reddy. I couldn't agree with you, sir, more than what you spoke. On the education front, so we have a lot of limitation on resources, but we are emerging. There is no doubt about it. In that constrained resource environment, how do you work to still maintain your social responsibility standards? Now for us, the definition of social responsibility is as simple as to take care of the person next to you. It does not extend beyond it. If you're going to work in a social environment, if you want your businesses to be sustainable, because only you're going to talk about sustainability and social responsibility when your business sustains. If you run out of business, you'll run out of all these objectives. So all this good talking is not going to do anything if your businesses don't survive. But if you can find a very sustainable and a healthier way of approaching that profit and getting that profit, may the mullahs come in big time. I think overall we are going to address the issue of social responsibility. So I remember one of the thoughts of Swami Vivekananda when he said, you cannot expect a change to happen outside if you do not start changing within. As an institution, we can set up a lot of foundations, we can have any sort of registrations, but unless and until you change your processes of functioning within, you are not going to make an impact outside. It's only going to be short-term impact. And this is where the partnerships, especially with the multilaterals, the private sector, the social sector, that they'll have to sit back on the drawing board and think about partnerships. Because one size fits all approach doesn't work in India. Every 100 kilometers, you're going to have a linguistic change, you're going to have a food change, you're going to have a cultural change. So you cannot develop partnerships on a globular level and implement it that level. You have to form partnerships at a global level, but implement it taking into local situations into account. The second question is what I would like to address is the question of sustainability. Now, I'm sure in the next 2 days of this discourse, there's a lot of people who are going to talk about sustainability. You're going to discuss, I think there's a special session on environment as well. And Mr. Prabjot is going to talk about it. One of the constraints is we are so much focused with this CSR and the amount of money coming in, 20,000 crore, 22,000 crore, that we have actually deviated from our core, that this gives us a platform. This money, this new venture, this new opening up of a platform where partners are coming in from the private sector to partner with social sector partners, gives us a platform to actually address the issue of sustainability right now. Because if we go ahead with this implementation without keeping sustainability as a core objective in those partnerships, I would rather say not businesses, as in those entrepreneurial journeys, maybe 10 years from now it will be a bit too late for us to realize that we have already missed the bus. One of the factors that I'll give you is that if the world citizen need to feed the whole of the earth 2 meals a day and give them 6 hours of electricity a day, we would need 1.5 Earth. So you see, the energy requirement of this world is increasing but it's getting doubled every 10 years, and the resources are getting halved every 10 years. So the disparity is increasing, and believe me, this disparity is not only going to affect a common citizen, it is going to affect the businesses. Your 2% is going to get dented if you stop thinking about it. I think there are a lot of good work which has already started on this front, some of which John actually explained with the multilaterals coming in. The West has actually caught up to that traffic. We are still to even understand at a greater level about it. But I think businesses have an overall responsibility towards the environment, which is your BBB approach. I would not pronounce profit because it is not a constitutional frame. Profit is not a part of it. Economics is. So you cannot remove ecology and keep only economics and the people. It actually involves ecology in between. So how about running a business without water? I don't know how many innovations have happened where without water you can actually develop a sustainable business model. So the core question is, this is the right time, and I can only advise on what we do. I cannot go beyond levels. There are better people on the dais to suggest you that. But as far as our suggestion is concerned, I think a lot of road has to be covered on the research platform on how a CSR project should be implemented. Private sector should be involved. I think all have spoken about it. Private sector should be involved in creating capacities from their industry knowledge, what they have. The second point is you're ready to implement, you're ready to roll out partnerships. Get out of the books and get on the field. Roll out these partnerships. We have been hearing a long time about partnerships. Hundreds are discussed, only one gets implemented. Let's roll out these partnerships. We should be ready with our percentage of failures. Means, can the private sector actually stand up and say they've actually incorporated and implemented a strategy without failing even once? It is impossible. But when it comes to a social project, failure looks like fatality. So there is a difference between failing and a sense of failure in the project. Right? So we have to be ready with our sense of failure. The private sector cannot expect the social sector to not fail even once and learn. But the social sector also should understand that the money that they are being given to implement the projects, they have to be accountable for. I just have a small, I don't know whether I'm going to offend a few people, but it's high time we stop using money in the social sector as grant and we start using money as investments. If we can actually make that shift and the procedural change in our heads, I think if the intent is in place, policies are already there. You can take advantage. There are hundreds of policies, there are hundreds of partners, multilaterals who are ready to invest money. But I think the intent from the private sector and the social sector at large has to be there. And it only gives me a sense of encouragement when conferences like this happen, when you and I can share a dais with, and we can hear a lot of knowledgeable partners all around. I think if we can go back from here and implement even one initiative at the end of the day, and even think about it, I think it should do us a world of good. So I would wish all of you all the best for the next 2 days, and welcome to the summit. Thank you.